No one was meant to hear this. Through the thick veil of centuries, I have watched the sharpest blades forged not of steel, but of a woman's smile. And the deadliest weapon this court ever held was a face. Her face. A flicker in the candlelight, catching the intricate carvings that guard this very chamber. These walls, silent witnesses to 1,000 betrayals, have known true power. Not the brute force of an army, no, but the insidious, potent force that bends men's wills, shatters bloodlines, and remakes dynasties with a mere glance. Do you understand? You, who sit in your comfortable chambers, imagine the clash of armies. I tell you, the true battles here are fought in the mind, in the heart, in the suffocating silence of these gilded halls. Her beauty was not a gift, it was a siege engine, an exquisite mask that concealed a mind sharper than any blade wielded by the Sultan's guards. A whisper from her lips could unravel a minister's career, a sigh could divert the course of empires. This was the silent war, fought not with swords, but with silk and shadows, with poison hidden in sweet words. She did not need armies, she commanded desires, she poisoned perceptions. She spun webs of dependency and fear with every subtle movement, every calculated flutter of her lashes. A single tear, real or feigned, could shift the balance of power, sending tremors through the very foundation of this empire. See the hand, delicate as a porcelain doll's, tracing the heavy embroidered silk of an imperial gown. So soft, so innocent. Then watch it clench, slowly, deliberately, into a fist. A silent declaration, a promise of devastation. It was a gesture that spoke volumes where no word dared be uttered. A silent threat, more potent than any shouted command. For who would suspect such a weapon, hidden behind such breathtaking grace? The air itself grew thin, stretched taut between ambition and fear. A silence that hummed with the weight of unseen daggers, a prelude to the inevitable storm. The cost of such power? It was often paid in blood, always in silence. And the dynasty, like a finely spun web, trembled on the edge of her command. The air, you see, was thick with the scent of jasmine and ambition. Here, within these gilded walls, every surface gleamed with gold, every cushion billowed with the finest velvet, every whisper carried the weight of 1,000 untold stories. It was a realm spun from pure, shimmering silk, a tapestry woven with threads of unimaginable wealth, where light itself seemed to bend to the will of the Sultan's artisans. The mosaics on the walls, intricate as fate itself, told tales of conquest, yet beneath their serene beauty pulsed a different narrative. A silent, constant hum of power, a dance of subtle gestures and veiled intentions. One might observe the ladies of the court, their gowns rustling like autumn leaves, their laughter like the chime of distant bells, and believe in a paradise. A golden cage, yes, but one of such exquisite comfort, so utterly devoid of want that freedom itself seemed a crude, forgotten concept. But paradise, my dear, is often the most dangerous of illusions. She entered this labyrinth of silk and gold, an innocent bird, her eyes wide, absorbing the grandeur without truly seeing the serpent beneath the bloom. But soon understood, here, beauty is not a gift, but a heavy shield, and if one knows how, a sharp sword. It was not a lesson taught in words, but in the flicker of an eyelid, the almost imperceptible tightening of a jaw, the sudden, unnatural silence that descended when a certain name was uttered. She learned to read the shadows that clung to the corners of the vast chambers, the unspoken pacts forged in the depths of a shared glance. The intricate patterns on the silken robes, the heavy jewels, the very architecture of this dynasty, all were a language, and she, with every passing day, grew more fluent. Do you see it? That delicate square of cerulean silk, edged with pearls, slipping from her grasp, not quite accidentally, as she turned to acknowledge the greetings of a lesser noblewoman. It drifted, a feather in a controlled breeze, coming to rest near the polished boot of a passing aga. His hand, swift and practiced, retrieved it. A moment, no more than a breath, as his dark eyes met hers across the distance. A flicker of understanding, a hint of something deeper than courtesy in the slight incline of his head before he melted back into the throng. The handkerchief, its texture soft as a forgotten dream, now carried a subtle weight, a nascent message. Was it a test? A warning? Or the first, almost imperceptible thread of a web she was learning to weave? In this world, where a single misstep could lead to the swift, silent drop of a vial of poison into a cup of sherbet, where bloodline was both a blessing and a curse, the stakes were absolute. Every smile held the potential for betrayal. She began to see not just faces, but masks. Not just conversations, but duels. And the game, my dear, had only just begun. The air in the palace grew thick, not with incense, but with unspoken urgencies. A whisper here, a hurried glance there. The game, my dears, had shed its velvet gloves. Now it was played with bare hands and fingernails sharpened to points. She moved through it all, a vision of serenity, each step measured, each rustle of her heavy silk gown a deliberate accent in the court's growing tension. But watch closely, for the stillness was deceiving. Her beauty, once a mere gift of the heavens, had become a honed instrument, precise and deadly. Her gaze, which once held only the promise of spring, now sharpened into a blade, keen enough to slice through the thickest walls of indifference, cutting to the very heart of a man's ambition, or his fear. And her voice, her voice. It was no longer the murmur of a nightingale, but a siren's song, laced with a subtle poison, penetrating the highest chambers, seeping into the ears of advisors, sultans, and rivals alike. It promised much, but delivered only what served her purpose. Behind every innocent smile she offered, a calculation shimmered, cold and bright as a winter star. Every gentle touch, every reassuring hand placed upon an arm, was a seed planted for a future betrayal. She had learned the court's brutal grammar quickly. She understood that power was not taken, but woven, thread by careful thread, from the ambitions and weaknesses of others. The palace, vast and echoing, became her chessboard. One night, a scroll, bearing a critical seal, lay upon a vizier's desk, its contents securing an alliance vital to a rival's power. The next morning, the seal was found broken, the document altered, a single telltale tear in the parchment testifying to a night of quiet subversion. Who had been the hand? Who the silent architect of such a breach? The shadows knew. They clung to the tapestries, they pooled in the corners of grand halls, silent witnesses to pacts made and broken, to loyalty offered and then, just as swiftly, withdrawn. The pace quickened, each intrigue a stroke, each whispered rumor a brushfire. A new decree, promising lands to a distant pasha, was suddenly rescinded. A favored concubine, once deemed indispensable, found herself banished to the old palace, her pleas unheard. The court buzzed with theories, with accusations, but no proof ever materialized that pointed to her. How could it? Her hands were never sullied, her face always composed. But you, from your quiet vantage point, you saw the gleam in her eyes when a messenger delivered news of another's misfortune. You saw the almost imperceptible tightening of her lips when a carefully laid plot unfurled exactly as she had intended. She spoke little in public, but her private words, delivered in hushed tones behind latticed screens, carried the weight of a sultan's decree. She mastered the art of making others believe her will was their own, making them willingly walk the path she had paved, even if it led them to ruin. Consider the Grand Vizier, a man whose formidable reputation was built on decades of loyalty. He had been a rock, an immovable pillar. Yet, she saw the crack, the tiny fissure of his pride. A series of subtle slights, an erosion of his authority in the eyes of the Sultan, a suggestion here, a false rumor there, all designed to chip away at his foundation. Her dialogues with him were a masterclass in subtle manipulation, a dance of veiled respect that concealed a dagger. "Surely, my lord," she might say, her voice soft as velvet, "your wisdom dictates patience in this matter. A hasty decision could displease our beloved Sultan." The implication, unstated but heavy, was that he would bear the blame. Then came the morning of the feast. The air was thick with celebratory scents, but beneath it, a current of dread hummed. The Grand Vizier, still smarting from a recent, orchestrated humiliation, was among the guests. A silver tray approached him, laden with a crystal goblet filled with ruby-red sherbet, glistening with beads of condensation. His favorite, he was told. A gesture of reconciliation, perhaps? He lifted the cup. And then, her eyes. Have you ever seen such coldness? Such absolute, unyielding resolve? From across the vast hall, her gaze met his, briefly, before she turned her head, a smile playing on her lips as she conversed with a visiting dignitary. But in that fleeting moment, in the depths of her calculating eyes, there was no warmth, no flicker of compassion. Only the icy glint of a predator who had finally cornered its prey. It was not the poison rumored to be in the cup that would seal his fate, though that too would play its part. No, it was her will, pure and unadulterated. A will forged in the fires of ambition, honed by the ruthless demands of the dynasty. For the dynasty, she knew, demanded sacrifices. It fed on the fallen, absorbing their strength, their lands, their very existence to grow ever stronger. And she, in turn, was willing to pay any price. She would offer up another's bloodline, extinguish it entirely if need be, to ensure her own prospered, to see her son one day ascend to a throne secured by her silent, relentless war. The silence of the court that followed the Grand Vizier's sudden collapse was not merely shock, but a testament to her terrible, beautiful power. The blood, metaphorically, was already staining the silk of her ambition. The air in these chambers, usually vibrant with the rustle of silks and the murmur of courtiers, now hangs heavy and still, like an ancient tapestry unrolling in the deepest hour. Listen closely. Do you hear it? The silence. It is not merely the absence of sound, but a presence, vast and suffocating, clinging to the gilded carvings and the polished marble. It breathes, this silence, a living entity that presses down, not just on the ear, but on the very soul. She stands alone amidst the sprawling opulence. Gold gleams, jewels sparkle, but these splendors only serve to emphasize the stark emptiness around her. This is the summit, you see, the pinnacle she carved with such ruthless precision. But the shadow of power, my friends, is impossibly long, and beneath its suffocating reach, she has found herself utterly, breathtakingly alone. Her gaze drifts to the mirror, a sheet of polished silver reflecting a face that could still launch 1,000 ships or shatter 1,000 bloodlines. Weary, yes. There are lines etched around those magnificent eyes now, faint as spiderwebs, but they speak of sleepless nights and choices made in the cruel light of dawn. Yet, the beauty, it remains. A weapon honed to perfection, still gleaming with an unnerving, predatory grace. But in the depths of those eyes, there is no flicker of triumph, only a profound, aching burden. A weight heavier than any crown forged of gold and diamonds. The path she forged, step by agonizing step, was not paved with rose petals. No, it was built upon the shattered ambitions of rivals, the hushed screams of those she outmaneuvered, the silent tears of countless pawns. Each ascent, each conquest, carved a deeper chasm between her and the world she once knew. It separated her, irrevocably, from all that is human. The warmth of a genuine touch, the comfort of an unguarded word, these are luxuries long sacrificed on the altar of ambition. Look at her, cloaked in heavy silk that shimmers like liquid midnight. It is the raiment of a monarch, yet it serves as a gilded cage. The very beauty that was her shield, her spear, her most potent poison, has walled her off. She has become an icon, a force of nature, a legend in the making. But the woman beneath the myth? She is lost somewhere in the labyrinthine halls of her own making, utterly isolated by the scale of her victory. The chambers stretch out, vast and echoing. Every flicker of candlelight casts a memory, every shadow holds a whisper of past betrayal. And in this profound stillness, she is left with only herself, the architect of her own magnificent solitude. There is no good or evil here, merely the brutal, stark truth of survival. Survival, forged and refined by a beauty so cruel it became her destiny, and her prison. Her name? Perhaps it slipped from the scrolls, a footnote lost to the dust of ages. But the shadow she cast, know this, still stretches long across these very halls. She taught a bitter truth. Strength is not merely in the sword arm, nor the roar of a sultan. It is found in the softest touch, the quietest word, the turn of a head. She understood that a woman's perceived fragility could be the most lethal blade in the dynasty's arsenal. No brute force, no open betrayal like a visible dagger. Her weapons were woven into silk, delivered with a smile, or left to fester in the silence that follows a whispered suggestion. A drop of poison in a chalice, yes. But often the poison was fear itself, planted with a glance. This then was the true game of queens. Not a game of armies, but of minds, of hearts, of the very bloodline. A ruthless ballet where every step was calculated, every breath a potential trap. Look closely now. Peer into the deepest shadows of this chamber. Do you see it? An eye, gleaming, reflecting not the present light, but the echoes of a past so potent it still breathes. It is the lesson learned, the warning etched. My voice, like her memory for some, now fades. A final whisper, carried on the drafts from open doors, a secret shared from behind this very pillar. And in the shadow of every throne, behind every graceful turn of silk, history still whispers. Beauty is not only a promise of paradise, it can also be a sentence. A sentence indeed for those who wield it, and for those who dare to stand against it. This is the truth of the game of queens, where mercy is a luxury no true player can afford.